Welcome in to a very special Rockies Insider and very special Blake Street Banter. It's a crossover edition. I am Patrick Lyons. He is Aaron McBride. Aaron, everyone wants to know, how the heck are you, bud?
I'm treading water, man. Just like we were saying a little bit off air. It's been a grind, and it's not like the baseball grind. It's just the life grind. I get the summers off, and the summer was over, and it hit me like a brick wall. And I think this is the first time I've talked Rockies, first time we've done a podcast in like three weeks. Like even like Blake Street Banter, we all hit the wall. So we're all just taking a little break, and we're here though. Like I appreciate you reaching out so we can get back on the ones and twos. Like this is fun. I need somebody to like, hey, let's do this, as opposed to me trying to do it, because I'm just not gonna find that time right now.
Heck yeah. Yeah, for everyone who listens to Blake Street Banter and the Rockies Insider, it's an escape, right? You're trying to take a break from your everyday life. And so that's true for you and for so many other folks that are out there, other guests that I've had on, where it is an escape. And it's a much nicer escape when the Rockies are good and they're winning, but maybe they're kind of trending upwards. Sure, we're only talking about 2 more wins from 2023 to 2024, but a lot more young players, a lot more players stepping up. So that is definitely a positive. And the first comment that we're getting right from Jump Street, shout out to the homie here who I imagine this comment here is in reference to Bradley Zimmer. And for the folks that hang out on the
He's that
Twitter,
guy.
yeah, hanging out
I
on
love
Twitter,
his grind, man.
hanging on X. I try to throw you a bone once in a while out there when there's a miscue by an outfielder or you hit into a game-ending double play. And my friend here likes to say, you know who would have come through in the clutch there? Bradley Zimmer, the guy that we thought was probably going to be in line for a bench spot for the Rockies going into opening day. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for him. Sam Hilliard came on. Greg Jones was acquired kind of out of the blue. But yes, if we have a gimmick, you got to run with it. And if you're the Bradley Zimmer guy, tip of the cap to you. We do appreciate the fandom. Absolutely. We're going to get to a lot today, talking postseason, talking about the Arizona Fall League. That's the big topic of the day. But Aaron, just wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit on this Rocky season in terms of offense, in terms of the guys who are doing it big at the plate. Number one, probably being Ezequiel Tovar, who led the team not just in games played, but plate appearances and at-bats, runs scored, doubles, homers, RBI, and slugging percentage, too. Keep that in mind. And then, obviously, on the bad side, too, 200 strikeouts, first time in Rockies history, but way more positive than negative when it comes to Ezequiel Tovar.
Right? Like, I don't know. Baseball fans love to pick and choose. Like, yeah, he did all this, right? He's setting Rockies records and doubles and homers. And like, we have a shortstop who's hitting for power, right? Like, you have doubles and homers. When's the last time we saw that? But like, right? So, and then it's caveated with 200 strikeouts. He's got to fix this in his game. But Patrick, does it really matter? Like, if we have this kind of production, if he's above the 100. I think, what was his OPS plus? That's probably something you know off the top of your head, or you can get Mike on it. Like, I believe it was above league average. And so like he's producing near 800 OPS. Like, does it really matter if we're striking out 200 times a year with the Gold Glove caliber defense along with it? I don't know. That, like, I get it, but at the same time, if it's working, why change it, or why like try to get mad about it?
Yeah, it's a good starting off point, right? We're talking about a guy who just turned 23. It was still his age 22 season. So the majority of the year, he was only 22 years old. So you can't really teach power like that. The contact is there. Again, there's still a lot of strikeout in the game, and that's going to factor in, late in certain ball games when you need to just put a ball in play. You've seen with some of the teams already this postseason, if they're a high contact club, just put it in play, and it can wreak havoc, I think, in a lot of games. And that is certainly something that Tovar is going to go back, work on. We saw the growth that Brett and Doyle made last offseason into this year. And so for Tovar, that's something for him to work on. Like, again, I've said it before, and I second what you just said there, Aaron. I'm not that concerned with it. Sure, it's a record. Sure, he also played 157 games. So you're right. The fact that he was 103 OPS plus, going to win a Gold Glove award. This is still a guy you're really, really excited about. So kind of no harm, no foul with breaking a record in that capacity. Ryan McMahon probably should have broken that record last year. He sat a little bit down the stretch to prevent him from striking out 200 times, but he ends up walking the most this season, 69 times, has a really bad second half. If there's anyone whose numbers you want to look at and say, I do have a little bit of concern about this player and some adjustments that he might need to make, Ryan McMahon is certainly a lot higher on that list than someone like Ezekiel Tovar with his 200 Ks.
But are we past the point where we want Ryan McMahon or expect Ryan McMahon to make those adjustments and find that in his game? Because I mean, I think he is what he is at this point. He's been
That's true.
What, four or 5 seasons? Let's count 2020. That's 6 seasons, 140 games plus 50 in 2020. Like he's been this guy for this long, right? And 90, you can average it out, 92 OPS plus across the 8 years of playing time. So it's like, I don't know, what is he, 30? He's
going to turn 30 this offseason, I think, right?
Yeah, he's going to turn 30 in about a month, or 2 months. So it's like, it's a great question, but I think we just, at a certain point, right? Baseball, it's always the law of averages, or you have all those, this is kind of the track record, and this is where he is, this is what he is. And I think this is just what he is. He's a streaky hitter that's going to be slightly above league average with it. And I think expecting to change that and be more than that, I don't know if it's fair to Ryan McMahon. And I don't, definitely it's not fair for us to kind of put that evil on him, so to speak.
Yeah, if he can have that great first half like he did as an all-star and then be his average self for the second half, that's even better. That's an even higher height rather than completely falling off the map the way he did. How about this one, though, Aaron? If we're talking about team leaders for the Rockies, this man led the team in on-base percentage. He also had the lowest strikeout percentage, and this is where you might be able to figure it out. He led the team in triples. Charlie Blackmon, 38 years old. He still has a lot to offer, I think. He's not going to offer that up on the playing field. He's going to offer it up on the coaching side. But that was nice to see for Charlie to at least lead the team in a couple categories.
Yeah, it's a good swan song for Chuck Nasty there. Like it's good that he went out with a decent season, right? Like it wasn't one that it was, you know what, I'm just going to keep fighting through this and then get cut and then be moved from 2 or 3 different teams like we see some guys. And so when a Rocky is doing that for 14 plus years, you want him to go out on a high note, so to speak. Obviously, you always want more, but you can't be really mad at his age 38 season. It's just insane.
I'm glad you mentioned that. You used a word about getting cut. And in some of the conversations I had over the final week of the season at Coors Field, there was talk of like, well, could Charlie come back next year? And yeah, I think he could. Again, very rarely you have him in the outfield. I know you've got a lot of young guys, but those young guys need more at-bats than they do need at-bats in the majors necessarily, or rather bench at-bats in the majors. So Jordan Beck starts the year in AAA. And so you say, all right, well, Charlie can be maybe once a week in the outfield or the DH, but really that's Chris Bryant's role. So it gets a little bit tight there. That's assuming everyone's healthy. But can you go ahead and assume or at least guarantee Charlie Blackmon a roster spot for the entire 6 months of the season? If you start getting really relevant, which I think the Rockies would like to hope that they're going to be in 2025, and you need that roster spot because now you're starting to win a lot more games than you did previously, and you're just hanging around 500, you're going to start considering the fact that you need to win a lot more of those closer games and get more out of your players. And now all of a sudden, are you having to cut an age 38, approaching age 39 Charlie Blackmon? That's not the way you want to end it. So I think it makes so much sense for every reason, right? Like this was the end. And, you know, from your perspective, how nice was it that Charlie could go out on a base hit, get his flowers, not just from Denver, but I think all of MLB was really supportive and really showed a lot of love to Chuck.
Yeah, that was the most Rockies propaganda we saw about anywhere at all this season. And so Chuck getting his flowers that way, like really an all-time great. And everybody that speaks about Chuck is just always speaks highly of him. So going through it, yeah, like you can't be mad about how the Rockies handled it. Like they announced it. It seemed like it was on Chuck's terms and how Chuck wanted to do it. And there was that conversation. Was he robbed of $500,000 with the plate appearance stipulation? I don't know if you've talked about it on your pod before, but it feels like because he was supposed to get like 400 plate appearance, he gets like $500,000 or something like that, and he ended at like 397 or 399 or something, really close. And so, but it just makes me, the Rockies don't do things like that. They take care of the people, and I guarantee you Chuck was in control of everything. This is what I want. Bud probably asked him, when do you want to be taken out after 2 plate appearances? I'm going to put me in center and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm sure that was discussed across them. So I think it's exactly what Chuck wanted, which makes me happy.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Bud Black said post game was that, Charlie was dictating this and, was pretty much only going to get maybe 2 plate appearances, come out defensively. Doing it after a base hit is great. And again, the conversations before that could have been, if I play the entire game, then I'm going to reach this mark anyway. Would you rather me go out on a base hit? Do we want to maybe meet in the middle and negotiate kind of something else on the side? I didn't really talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up because I did see that circulating, but I didn't really put much credence into this idea that, the Rockies did Charlie dirty. No, I don't believe that was the case at all. I'm sure they were very aware of it. That was front and center. That was discussed, and they sorted it out, and then that's it. Certainly a lot different than the Rowdy Tellez situation with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
So, I think everything was good and copacetic on that situation. So, yeah, it's wild to think Charlie's is gone, but hopefully we do see him next spring training, which does seem to be the way. We're going to see Michael Toglia next spring training. Is he going to beef up a little bit more? Dude led the team in OPS and OPS plus at 767 OPS, kind of coming out of the blue, tore up AAA. We had seen that before with Elias Montero. This year and in years past, gets demoted, then wins like PCL Player of the Month, and it doesn't really mean too much. Well, Toglia comes back, those 25 home runs, those 10 stolen bases, 2 on top of that, second on the team in stolen bases. Michael Toglia, that really was such a big breakout for the Rockies, something they really needed over at first base.
Agreed. It was kind of out of the blue. Like he was the big 3 true outcome guy, right? Walk, strikeout, homer, and he kind of lived up to that. I know his walk rate went up a little bit. I think his strikeout rate was a little high. So he figured it out, right? Like, and I don't know. I always get worried about this. Like we saw with Nolan Jones and like these rookie campaigns where the sophomore year kind of kicks you in the butt, right? Like, hey, we finally got a first baseman that kind of figured it out. Like the Monty experience seems to be over. I don't know what we do with Monty moving forward, but about like Toglia, he kind of took it and ran with it. He finally got that chance. It seemed like the managing up top, the coaching kind of believed in him a little bit more than Monty, which is a different conversation. But I don't know, like, are we happy if he does exactly what he did this year, next year? Like he turns it into a 30-15, a 30-20 season. Like, I don't think we're really too mad about that. But going back to that, if you're compiling that with the Ezekiel Tovar strikeouts, Brenton Doyle strikeouts, and like going down that road, and you need these guys to put a ball in the bat, like we have some of those guys in the system. Should they warrant an extra look? And it's just going to be interesting how the roster is kind of configured. I don't know if Toglia is really the future at first base. I know he set a record, like the most starts at first base since Todd Helton consecutive starts or something like that. That was a thing, right? So I don't know. I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him, but I don't know if I'm excited as most Rockies fans or critics, so to speak, about Michael Toglia's breakout season. I don't know if I believe it just yet.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, especially as you kind of alluded to. There are a lot of really good prospects in the system. A lot of them are outfielders, and you can't move to third base if you're an outfielder. You can move to first base. You might be able to figure that out. And so at some point, if Michael Toglia has these ups and downs like he has the last couple of years, the Rockies might not be able to be afforded the luxury of sticking around with him, they might have to maybe make a change. But then again, he's going to get all those opportunities going into next spring. And if he can continue to do that, maybe hit 30 home runs. I mean, you got a young CJ Crone, okay, who has plays Gold Glove defense at first base. Definitely not too bad. Speaking of older, bigger players on the Rockies roster, Jacob Stallings led the team in hit by pitches. Now, I crunched some numbers. I looked it up. We know catchers are gluttons for punishment. That's why catching equipment has the nickname of tools of ignorance. So Jacob Stallings loves rocking the tools of ignorance. In Rockies history, only 15 players had ever been hit by a pitch 9 or more times. That includes Jacob Stallings. And the 4 fewest plate appearances of those 15 players in a season, with 9 times getting hit by a pitch or more, 3 are catchers, Danny Ardway, Chris Iannetta, Jacob Stallings. And the 4th is a former hockey player in Larry Walker. So, Jacob Stallings, he says, I'm worried I'm going to strike out here. So, you know what? I'm going to get on base. If I can't put the ball in play, I'm going to put my body in play, get hit by a pitch. And you know what? That worked out pretty nicely for him, believe it or not.
I mean, you find a way, right? He's that grizzled vet that everybody likes to be around. And yeah, you're going to get beat up behind the plate and you're going to get beat up at the plate. And there's something to speak about that in the clubhouse. Like, he's a dog in that clubhouse. People love that.
Do have to give a little props to Nolan Jones, had the highest walk percentage at 12%. As you said, had that somewhat of a sophomore slump, but some of that had to do with injuries, which is almost more concerning in a sense because you say, well, I hope he can recover from the back issues that he's had and be healthy. And 2, because we didn't really get to see him that much, does that theoretical sophomore slump carry over to his second true full season? Again, that sort of remains to be seen, but he'll be given that opportunity. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing any winter ball as his body does need to recover. Sam Hilliard, I mean, he was great. 507 slugging percentage. Didn't qualify, didn't have a ton of at-bats, but if you just look at the players who played regularly, Sam Hilliard did lead the team. That is excluding Greg Jones, who did hit a homer in one of his 6 at-bats. So technically he did have the highest slugging percentage, but I don't think we can count that. We'll give Sam Hilliard the slugging percentage crown.
Did Sam Hilliard just earn the 4th outfield spot next year? I think he kind of played into it, which as a guy that follows the prospects kind of sucks because our outfield prospect pool is absolutely massive. But for what he did and what he kind of figured out, again, I didn't watch a lot of Rockies in September, I will say that, but looking at the stat line and looking at the BSB chat, like Sam Hilliard might have just earned his 4th outfield spot for next year. Sorry, Zimmer, but I think he's on the roster, man.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think he's probably a stronger option than Jake Cave, who they're about making the same thing. I think Cave was making $1 million this year. Hilliard only about 800,000. So it's going to be pretty similar. I think you might have a little bit more upside from Hilliard. Cave is the veteran where that is used to that spot off the roll, but Hilliard, he is getting a little bit older now at this point. And so I think you could go either way. I think there might even be a chance that they go into spring with both of these guys as 4th outfield options, at least until one of the young guys ends up taking one of those spots and they figure that out and making it work. So we'll kind of wait and see on that. I do want to talk a little more Rockies on this date in Rockies history. We're recording this on Sunday, October 6th. I know you'll like this one, Aaron. In 2001, they were playing that late, unfortunately, because of 9/11. It was still the regular season. Final game of the season for the Rockies. Todd Helton became the first player in Major League history with consecutive seasons of 400 or more total bases. He is still the only player to do that. Isn't that crazy? 7th inning double gave him exactly 400 bases that year. Now, there were 3 other players who got to 400 total bases in 2001, Luis Gonzalez, Barry Bonds, and Sammy Sosa. But since Helton crossed that finish line in the final game, technically, you could say he is the last one to have done it before Shohei Ohtani reached that mark this year.
I was going to say, I remember seeing Ohtani was close to it. I don't know if he made it at that was the last series, right?
Yeah.
When he got the 400. Yeah, that's insane. That's so many bases.
So when you look at the list, it goes
That's insane.
Shohei Ohtani was the last, and right before him, Todd Helton, the
That's
Todd
a
father.
big gap. This is a big year gap too. That's insane.
A little bit, yeah. 95 was game 3 of the NLDS, a win in Atlanta. Eric Young Sr. and Vinny Castilla homered off Hall of Famer John Smoltz. Castilla's was actually a go-ahead 2-run shot. And then in 2009, it was a loss. Rockies did not look very good in 2009 NLDS against the Phillies. But, this was a little feather in the cap. Troy Tulowitzki ended up ruining Cliff Lee's postseason debut with an RBI double that broke up Cliff Lee's shutout. So 2 other fun little moments in postseason Rockies history, which we got to go back and celebrate those games. Even when they're losses, we got to look back and say, hey, this guy had 2 hits. Hey, that's something. He had a double off of who? All right. That's fantastic.
We need more playoff baseball in Colorado. We need more.
We do. Yeah, there's a couple of former Rockies kicking around this postseason. We saw Jeff Hoffman get the win on Sunday in Game 2 as the Phillies bounced back in a wild back and forth contest, 7-6. Mets kept their momentum going at least in Game 1 with that 5-1 victory. Zach Wheeler was dominant. Jeff Hoffman looked good in his 3 pitches. Ends up getting a pitching win by throwing 3 pitches. So both Wheeler and Hoffman are free agents this offseason. Wheeler's going to get a lot more money than Hoffman, but it seems surprising that both Wheeler, I think, he's almost on a Hall of Fame trajectory at this point, a real late career surge, and he's going to get paid. And that Jeff Hoffman, a guy who was pretty much cast off by the Rockies, has found so much success, and I think he, similar to Robert Stevenson last offseason, is going to probably go out, maybe get 3 years, $30 million from some team out there.
Yeah, he's been one of the better relievers this past year. I said the Rockies just go all in and bring in Wheeler. Let's go $35 million a year, 2 years, just to see what we have. Put a whole bunch of incentives in there and bring in Zach Wheeler to head the rotation. Like, let's just do something absolutely insane.
It's one of those,
all the money.
It's one of those you go, who says no? Still Zach Wheeler. Still,
right? Like, how much money? What is the line for a ace, top of the line starting pitcher to come to Colorado in their prime?
All right,
is it like 46.5 over under?
That's almost exactly what I would have had. Something like mid 40s for like 2 years, maybe even more than that, because someone like Zach Wheeler, who is a little bit on the older side, it's his second time in second turn in free agency, but he's a little bit older. He's a guy that you're more likely be able to get than somebody I think that's 29, 30, 31, their first time in free agency. But I really think the number would be something close to 2 years, $100 million, believe it or not, for a guy like that, which you say, oh, well, that's not a good deal for the Rockies. Might be a good deal for Zach Wheeler. That is until he goes back into free agency in 2 years after having a 5 ERA and, he's going bald. His hair turns white. He's got patches all over his head. That's still a rough look.
Yeah, but I mean, you got the money to fix it, right? And you are going to earn a little bit more, because then you just chalk it up. It was just Coors kicked my ass, and then you still get the next 2-3 year contract. Like, he can do it. He can be fine.
Okay, so it's 2 years, $100 million to come to Colorado, and the Rockies do have to cover the cost of a hair transplant.
There we go. Add that in.
All right. I think we just
sponsored by Street Banter. Street Banter will cover the hair loss there.
Bill Schmidt, if you're listening, which I assume you are, there you go. All right, Zach Wheeler is going to be in purple.
Let's sign him up now.
Let's get that done for sure. Over in the American League, Yankees snuck past the Royals 6-5 in Game 1 on Saturday. Controversial ruling that looked like an easy overturn that kind of cost the Royals the game. They lost a little bit of momentum. Game 2 is going to be in the Bronx on Monday after a day off for the American League teams. 2 lefties on Monday with the initials CR, Cole Reagans, Carlos Rodon. Do you think the Royals can somehow keep that momentum of taking down the Orioles in the first round and beating the Yankees? Or would you prefer the Detroit Tigers in this division series round? Which of the American League underdogs would you feel a little bit more confident in pulling the upset?
I mean, I haven't been watching Rockies baseball in September because the Detroit Tigers are a thing in September. It is everything that 2007 was. It is very Rocktober here. I'm up in Michigan, so for you not Blake Street Banter listeners, I am a Detroit Tigers fan second. and it's been fun. So Detroit Tigers all the way. It's absolutely insane what they've been able to do. The bullpenning against the Guardians is going to be tough sledding. I didn't realize how stacked the Guardians bullpen was until game 1, when it was just like, okay, you've got to get to that starting pitcher quick. But
what's
Tigers
a Hunter Gaddis? What's a Cade Smith? Oh,
like,
that's what that is. Yeah,
that's what that one is. And I can, like, you look at the Detroit Tigers stuff, like, it's insane. Like, where their pitchers were, AAA stuff, like, look at the numbers, it's terrible, but none of the arsenal is the same. Like, they're all using their stuff differently, which is a nod to the Detroit Tigers pitching lab, because they do what other teams can't up here. So give me all of Detroit Tigers. Realistically, you're looking, I think the Royals have a better chance of knocking off the big dog than the Tigers.
It does feel that way at this point after, as you said, bullpen game in game 1 went really bad. Now the Tigers have to win game 2 in Cleveland on Monday, but it's because they got their ace on the hill. You got to win every Tarek Skubal game known to man. So you've got to win that one. So could be possible. And yes, for anyone that doesn't know, if you exit Coors Field and you go east on Blake Street, about 1,000 miles east is Aaron. So still he's on Blake Street. That's why it's Blake Street Banter. It's just way east in Michigan. You didn't know that it travels that far down. So we'll sort of wait and see what happens there. Tarek Skubal versus Matthew Boyd. And then, in the National League, full disclosure, as we're recording this, you do have Padres and Dodgers. Dodgers win game 1, 7-5, as if there was going to be any doubt. Shohei Ohtani homers in his first ever postseason game with an all-time bat flip. It was more of a bat helicopter, the way he flung that thing. That was something.
I was able to watch it live. I don't get a lot of that time, and I was watching live last night, and it was one of those at bats that you just like, he's going to go yard. Like, you see the pitching, you see how he's kind of working him. And then I think it was the announcers. Somebody said, it's like, oh, he's just watch out here. This is where he kind of loses it. Who was the pitcher for the Padres last night?
Dylan
Cease. Like, his upper fastball, it'll get hit. And sure enough, it was that 96, 97 piped. And then you just had that feeling that Ohtani was going to do it. And that bat flip was incredible. You don't see a lot of Ohtani expression like that. And like, that was like an angry Ohtani piece. It was awesome. That was everything baseball fans are here for.
That's the replay of Ohtani celebrating. That's a lot more acceptable to show when, other than, he's taking his batting glove off and shaking the dirt out. That one, kids look away. But the bat flip, that's fun. We can do that. Not a problem. Even if you want to celebrate with his dance moves coming around third base. So Padres at the time of recording up 3-1. So I did think going into the series, and I still do, if the Padres lose game 2, I don't know if they could win the series, but I wouldn't count them out. I think I would still have, even down 0-2, I still think the Padres can win this series. They had the momentum going in. They did it once before against the Dodgers. I just think their pitching is a little bit suspect. Yeah, they've got the bats, but Freddie Freeman's on one good foot, one bad foot. So I do think that the Dodgers are very susceptible. And against the Padres, which even down 0-2, they're going back to San Diego. You win those 2 at home at Petco Park, because that place can get rocking. All you got to do is win game 5, and at that point, it's anybody's game, even if it is at Dodger Stadium. So I wouldn't count the Padres out if they lose on Sunday.
There is something about the Padres that they just don't ever seem out. Like you said, down 0-2, like they still have the big dogs. They still have some arms in that rotation that can fight, and there's some kind of grit with it. So I agree with that.
Aaron McBride from Blake Street Banner here to talk about the Arizona Fall League, the finishing school for MLB's top prospects. It begins on Monday, October 7th, runs through November 16th. For anybody that doesn't know what the Arizona Fall League is, it's prospects that are on almost the final step before getting ready for the big leagues. And even if they're not on their final step, a lot of them take that trajectory to a Hall of Fame career. We've seen Mike Piazza, Todd Helton, Derek Jeter are just a few of the 3,000 future big leaguers that have graced the Arizona Fall League. Current MLB stars, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Mookie Betts, all went through the Fall League, and the Salt River Rafters will start on Tuesday. That is who the Colorado Rockies prospects are going to be playing with. Is this a time where, for the Blake Street Banners, it's Christmas coming early, it's Hanukkah, it's Kwanzaa, it's holiday season, even though it's not yet the holidays?
It's the New Year's Eve of it. It's the end of the holiday break. It's you get really excited about it. It's kind of there, but usually at the end of it, yes, Sean, go Goats, big time listener there. Thank you for hanging out, Sean. It's you get excited about it. It's there, and then it's kind of a disappointment in the end because it's just not what you wanted. You expect it to be. Like for example, Jaden Hill last year. It was awesome. Like, all right, he's going to go to the Arizona Fall League. He's going to get a few starts. He's going to get 2-3 innings. But no, it was all, he was being groomed to be a reliever and the closer and all that. And it's working out, but it's like, oh, dang. And then after the fact, it's like, okay, that's why that happened. But it is a good time. Like you said earlier, it's just baseball and it's minor league baseball. And you get some of these prospects that you don't necessarily get to see. There's a few guys for the Rockies that are not household names in any way. And it's kind of surprising by how they're on the roster. And I'm sure you'll lead into that here in a second, but it's the Arizona Fall League. It's always a good time. And a friend of the pod, I think he's a friend of your pod too. I'm forgetting his name, but he works down there in Arizona Fall League. He went over to the Orioles. He used to be with K-Dub.
That's right. Our good buddy Justin Wick, who used to be the master of ceremonies. Yeah, I think he's going to be back down there for the Fall Stars game. That's the other thing too, is that for anyone that does happen to go down to Arizona or the Phoenix area, because all the ballparks for spring training are the same ones that they use for the Arizona Fall League. Just 6 teams using 6 different ballparks. So you can go to multiple games in the same day. And believe it or not a ton of people go to these games other than the crown jewel events, which I'll discuss here in a second. But you can go right up. You can get a ton of autographs. I went once a long time ago and got a ton of autographs from guys. There are plenty of adults there that got their binders and have a whole page of an entire player.
Binder guys, man.
And those guys, players will just sign an entire binder full. So, Jack, thanks for the shout out. I'm going to get to your question in just a second there in the chat over on YouTube. Guillaume, sup, appreciate you in the chat. Love this community that we got going. But yeah, we got a triple header at Goodyear Ballpark. That's where Cincinnati and Cleveland plays, kind of southwestern Phoenix, on October 19th. October 25th, they actually play a game at Grand Canyon University. October 26th is a doubleheader at American Family Fields in Phoenix. Actually, I think American Family Fields might be Maryvale. I think that's where the Brewers play. That's October 26th. November 8th is the Fall League Home Run Derby at Sloan Park. And then at Sloan Park is the annual Fall Stars game on November 9th. You could just drop into any of these games for $13, $11 for seniors or teenagers. If you're a kid age 10 or under, it is free. Some of the more bigger games, the crown jewel games that I just highlighted there, they're $20. But you can get a season pass for all of the games. You can go to multiple games in a day if there's a day game and a night game for $155. If it's you and a buddy or you and your partner, significant other, 2-person pass, $185 to go to as many games as you would like. So there's only 2 dates on the calendar from October 7th to November 16th where there's not a game. So you can just have an absolute overload, have the ballpark to yourself, have the players to yourself, and it's just a great environment.
Yeah, having that kind of environment, like you said, the environment, just the words are hard right now, the ability to interact with the players in like kind of almost a one-on-one situation. Like that's what makes minor league baseball so fun. Like you can sit there and talk to the bullpen guys and just hang out. And then here you are in a smaller environment, smaller crowd, and still watching top prospects go head to head.
And you might even, when you pull into a stadium and park, you might even park next to a player because some guys show and go. They just roll right up and you see them walking across the field while everyone's stretching and like, this guy's wearing flip-flops, just coming in, getting changed because they don't really use the locker rooms. They're bringing all their stuff in a bag. So it feels almost like a summer league game, except it's in October and it feels like summer too. So if you got to get out of the cold, I recommend that. As you said, it has that minor league environment to it. They do use the ABS system, automatic ball strike system. It's been used in the Arizona Fall League since 2022. Salt River Fields has it. A couple other ballparks there. So half the league will be able to use at least 2 challenges, which you can retain if you win your challenge, but can be initiated by the batter, the pitcher, or the catcher. They'll tap their head, and then almost in real time, immediately, boom, up on the
It's
scoreboard.
so fast.
You'll see it. And it's really cool. And that is a taste of what's going to happen in the future. It's not just the players that you're going to see in the majors in the future, but it's also the technology that's going to be there as well. I do want to, Jack mentions in the chat, I'd have to double check this. So I don't know how many of these players are actually going to be Rule 9 free agents this offseason. Basically, players who have been down in the minors for a couple years, they do have an option to go elsewhere and sign with another team. I honestly think most of these guys will probably be back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these rosters in AA and AAA, every team needs bodies. Every team needs players to fill in these spots. And unless these guys have a better opportunity somewhere else, I think more than likely than not, they're going to stick around with Colorado. Elihuris Montero is one of those names that Jack highlights. He certainly is a player that I've heard a lot of people say, you know where he'd be really good? Japan. and if Elihuris Montero was in Japan, you know he'd hit like 25, 30 home runs, maybe come back, have an Eric Timms-like career. I don't know. Prince Fielder might be a little bit much, or not Prince Fielder, his father, Cecil Fielder, who went over to Japan for a year before coming back and hitting 50 homers with the Detroit Tigers up on East Blake Street in your neck of the woods in Michigan. So, you know, I think a lot of these guys I do expect to be back. I think only if there's some kind of roster crunch. Andrew Quezada is probably one of those names who was in AA again in 2024, despite being really good in 2023. Really good. There's a lot of good young pitchers, so I could sort of see him being squeezed out and being a player that might benefit from going from another organization where he can get some guaranteed innings as a starter in AAA. So we'll sort of wait and see what happens. You can't have enough pitching. So again, I think the Rockies are going to want and will retain most of these guys, in my opinion.
I would say Quezada comes back just because the Rockies like those kind of arms at the AAA level. I would put money that Montero and Levine would be the first 2 to go on this list. And I think the Rockies like Mac. He's the kind of veteran presence. He's a good second, third to fill up the gap between Fulford or who's the big guy, Messina in there, just in case. I think the Rockies really like CVS. I think they really like him. They put him in a lot of situations last year for the Goats. And Pint Noah, like got love for Noah for days. Like he's our guy. So hopefully he comes back and actually gets a chance to be at a major league roster spot there. But I think one of the first basemen go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Connor Kaiser could also be one of those players that goes elsewhere. If Ryan Ritter, a guy we're going to talk about here in a second, on the Salt River Rafters roster, if he's ticketed for AAA, again, he's going to need that playing time there. So we'll sort of wait and see what happens like that. But despite the fact that a lot of these guys can become minor league free agents, many of them do end up sticking around for at least one extra year to see if they can get some opportunities with the team, because Rockies still need a lot of depth. So let's take a dive into some of these Rockies prospects. Again, we can't say it enough that this is a finishing school for prospects before they go on to do some big things. You know, in 2011, Nolan Arenado was the Arizona Fall League MVP. Then in 2012, he made his big league debut. So immediately turned around. As you said, Jaden Hill was there last year. Then he's up in the majors in September, providing big league innings. 2022, Zach Veen, who we've yet to see in the majors. We know he's had some injury issues, but he was the offensive player of the year winner in the AFL in 2022. So these are guys that get put on the radar in a big way. They're given opportunities. Some of them, it's just before they get added to the 40-man roster so that they don't get taken by another club in the Rule 5 draft, or if they're just giving another opportunity to get more at-bats. And I think that's the case for the number 22 prospect on MLB Pipeline, Gabriel Hughes, who just returned from Tommy John surgery. So after his draft year in 2023 and a couple outings with High A Spokane and AA Hartford, Gabriel Hughes just needs innings, and we might see him go somewhere in the Winter League. But in the meantime, he can go and get some innings on his arm, get some feel, get some touch for being back on a mound in some competitive situations with the Salt River Rafters in the Arizona Fall League. Don't really know how many innings he's going to go, but nevertheless, this is a good opportunity for him to get back on the comeback trail following TJ surgery last summer.
Yeah, 100%. Only 66.2 professional innings in his 2023 season. Oh, yeah, 2023 season, where he was a Double-A Hartford yard goat for a little bit before hitting the surgery table. Just big arsenal, has number 2, number 3 pitching written all over him, Chase Dollander. But like you just need the innings. And when you are watching these Arizona Fall Leagues, you're not going to see Gabe Hughes, even if he's through 40 pitches, go a 4th, 5th inning. Like, you expect these starters at most 3 innings pitched, maybe 50, 60 pitches in all, just because they have so many guys on this roster that need that experience and get going. But I'm just excited to see Gabe in competitive baseball against top prospects, against top talent, and just being able to kind of work towards something for next year. Like, always worry about these guys coming back from TJ the next year. Like, how's your body going to respond? How are you going to respond mentally? All that's part of it. And so getting this little taste about 15, 20 innings is going to be big. I'm excited for Gabe Hughes back.
Yeah, that's a great point worth going into a little bit more. Is players aren't battling for playing time like you would think about on a normal team. This is basically a comfortable environment set up by all 30 teams to say, hey, somebody needs to get a little bit of extra work. We'd like to see this player a little bit more. We might as well do it on some of these larger settings in the spring training facilities. And this guy needs so many innings. This guy needs so many innings. And once they hit that inning limit, they bounce. Like, there are some guys that will go out. I can remember Jordan Sheffield I think it was in 2021 after he was a Rule 5 pick. Boom, made one outing and then he was done. Just had to work on a little something. So you're right. It isn't just Rockies players. That's the other piece too, is that the team that the Rockies prospects are going to play with, the Salt River Rafters, which of course play at Salt River Fields at Talking Stick. But there are 4 other clubs that will make up the Rafters team. They are prospects from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Naturally, that's who shares the facility down at Salt River Fields. The Washington Nationals, Minnesota Twins, and New York Yankees. We'll touch on some of those prospects here in a little bit, but it really is just about going out there, not competing to the high level that we saw Spokane and Fresno and Hartford in these playoff pushes. It is getting your work in a setting that is very competitive. And so it isn't the same thing of, hey, why did this guy come out? Why did he only get 3 innings? They were hitless. He hit a pitch limit. So that's a good thing worth pointing out for sure. Now, the other guy that I'm really excited to see that, we might see going forward, is he sort of an Alan Trejo 2.0, maybe Aaron Schunk 2.0. I think Aaron Schunk became Alan Trejo 2.0. So is this guy Alan Trejo 3.0? I don't know. Maybe he's even more than that, but I loved what I've seen, and I know you have too, from shortstop Ryan Ritter. He was one of those names that was very exciting to see him added to the Rafters list, because coming out of the University of Kentucky, he was one of those players where you thought there could be some serious upside. He was hot in the month of July at Double-A and really showed something this year. So despite not needing to be added to the 40-man roster just yet, Rockies are giving him that opportunity because maybe he makes an impact off the bench, or maybe he's the second baseman of the future and not Ariel Amador. These are some of the things worth discussing this offseason and worth keeping an eye on during the Arizona Fall League.
You took my thunder, dog. I'm about to say the Ryan Ritter is the second baseman of the future. It's Ryan Ritter needs to be recognized for what he did in Hartford, like of consistency and just being a dog and being a ball player in and day out at shortstop in the Eastern League against all those other top talents in minor league baseball. He went out there and produced just above and beyond what you would expected Ryan Ritter to do when he was drafted out of Kentucky 2 years ago. Like, he was a glove first defensive shortstop. That was his calling card. He still shows it. He's absolutely incredible. He's a wizard out there, but the bat is coming around. He has a little bit of pop in it. It has some average there. Obviously, you still want it to grow a little bit more, but like if you're looking at Adele Amador and Ryan Ritter in their 2024 campaigns, like Ritter definitely closed that gap. Like it's not as big of a gap that I think people are going to say. Like obviously Adele Amador has the top 100 pedigree, but there's something about Ryan Ritter who's just he's a ball player, and like you see these guys that just make everybody else around them a little bit better. He saves the bad throw at second base. He makes the routine plays look even easier. But the consistency, when he went out for like 3-4 weeks because of a bad slide at second base, the Goats kind of struggled. They were kind of picking and battling at the shortstop spot. The wins weren't as much as they were when he was there. And when he came back, there was a light just struck, and he changes the game when he's out there, and that can't go unnoticed. And he's going to be a better Alan Trejo. Like I think he has more talent than Alan Trejo. No offense to Trejo. I love that guy. But there's something about Ryan Ritter. He can be a serviceable major league starter in the middle infield.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Had a 773 OPS in what is typically a pitcher's league in AA, the AA Eastern League, that is. So that 773 OPS was the second highest for a qualified shortstop. So really like that stuff. And in talking with him in spring training, I think he has a real good head on his shoulders. It's just one of those guys that
he gets it.
Comfortable. He gets it. Has just the right amount of confidence. So I'm really excited to see what Ryan Ritter does in the Arizona Fall League. And great question here. There's no such thing as a bad question, right? The only dumb question is the one you don't ask, unless it's really dumb. No, but this is a really good question by our buddy Guillaume. What's the difference between the level of play between the Arizona Fall League and winter ball? Chances are a lot of other people on this stream have that same question. So thanks for being brave to ask it. Arizona Fall League, they're true minor league guys that are still developing. They're trying to get innings. The competition is not the same as winter ball. Winter ball is a mix of a lot of like quadruple A players, and those guys want to win a championship. They really are about winning.
Those atmospheres are so much fun.
Yes. Yeah, a lot different too. It's not, again, hey, kids under 10 are free. It's more like you might not want to bring your kids.
You're not bringing your 10-year-old.
Because it gets kind of wild. So it's a lot more competitive of like doing the little things to win a game versus the Arizona Fall League is, hey, I'm working on certain things. I'm maybe cutting down my strikeouts or going the opposite field, things of that nature. So winning isn't really the same. It's kind of why in the Arizona Fall League, a lot of the teams are right around 500. You know, and again, you're not going deep into ball games. The players in the Arizona Fall League are very much being protected by their club. They like them. They've invested a lot in them. In the winter league ball, whether it's, you know, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, there's a lot of really good ones out there. These are guys that are probably minor league free agents or guys who were hurt and were just dropped from the 40-man roster. And they're trying to play and entice another team to give them another opportunity. And they're a little bit older, sometimes a lot older. So Vinny Castilla, I think, continued to play even when he was like 44 years old, something like that, for fun.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between the Arizona Fall League and winter ball, right?
Yeah, you'll see a little bit of that. But I mean, Zach Veen, he went and played winter ball after his Arizona Fall League last year. I think it's because the injury and trying to figure out what else was going on. I think he had 9 at-bats, and they were really good though. But it's a whole different beast. And I think you can watch both. I think the Arizona Fall League, is it on MLB TV this year, or is it only on the website? Because I know at one point it was only on the website. You had to be on a browser to be able to watch it. But I know MLB TV does the Dominican League. I think even the Mexican Winter League, some games on there as well. So definitely the network covers some of it.
I got to become good friends with Jose Perez from El Extra Base this year at the ballpark, and definitely think I'm going to have to do a Winter League preview of, you know, some of the best players. I don't know how deep in I want to go, but it is a fun thing. It's kind of like if you,
it's fun.
Oh, it's fun. And it's reminds me of like the pandemic in a good way, where there was no baseball. And all of a sudden it was like, all right, let's learn as much as we can about the players in the KBO. All right, I got to pick a KBO team. Roberto Ramos is sticking around on the Doosan Bears. No, he was on the LG Twins. How dare I? But like you fall in love with like players that will never reach the majors, but you need guys to root for. So that Guillaume, great question. Thanks for asking that. Some of the other prospects for the Rockies that are going to be there, Michael Prosecky, he's probably the second most notable pitcher. He's number 17 on the MLB pipeline list. McCade Brown, another guy who had Tommy John surgery last year. He's one of those players that isn't very high up on a lot of lists. In fact, he's not even on the Rockies top 30, but the Rockies really like McCade Brown. There's always a couple players where, again, if you listen to the right people, if you're listening to Blake Street Banter, if you're listening to the Rockies Insider, if you're going down to spring training, you notice certain guys getting more opportunities than others. It's similar to, I think it was 2022 when, it was 2022 when off the backfields, one of the first days of live pitching, struts in a 6'7" Gavin Hollowell. And I go, oh, all right. Looks like Gavin Hollowell is going to be a thing, despite the fact everyone overlooking him. The Rockies really believe in this guy. McCade Brown is one of those players that the Rockies really like. So 2 more really good pitchers to keep an eye on during the Arizona Fall League.
Yeah, Michael Prosecky is a friend of the pod. Go back and go to our Blake Street Banter YouTube and find the banter session. He's just a fantastic guy. Louisville product. Had a fantastic 2023 season in Fresno. Had the injury bug. Not quite sure what happened. He was off and on. Had a rough outing in Northwest League this year. Like, his numbers don't look good. I don't know if he even went over 5 innings once this year. But he was still in the pitching for the Spokane Indians in the playoffs. I think he went 5 innings, 4 hits or something. Pretty good outing. He has big strikeout stuff, has the ability to pitch a lot of innings. He was one of 5 pitchers to go 120 plus a few years ago. He's somebody I'm really big on. He's a fringe 4 or 5 starter, long relief guy that could be more than that. I think that's his floor there. And then McCade Brown, if you want to see a strikeout guy, like, it's McCade Brown. And the biggest thing that this man is the injury bug. He gets up there. I think he had 2 or 3 stints on the IL this year, pitched for Fresno a little bit, and then had to go back down to the complex. Don't know what it is. He's been injury plagued his 2 seasons with the big league squad, but just giant strikeout numbers when he was with Indiana. And just, he's a big arm, big guy. And I'm excited to see what he can add to an arm barn in the near future. I missed his name when I was looking through the list, and I'm excited for that. Like, that gets me excited.
So I broke news to you, I guess, in a way.
In a way, yes, because I missed his name in the top right of the roster there.
I tell you what, and again, you're saying all the right things. That makes sense, because with the high strikeout and the fact that, hey, it's going to take a while to build up those innings. Gabriel Hughes is still very much a starting pitcher. Don't even necessarily need him right now just yet. So you can be a little bit more patient, especially with how much has been invested with him being the 9th overall pick in the 2023 MLB draft, the Rockies' top pick. Yeah. Whereas someone like McCade Brown, you go, you know what? We can use another arm as a reliever, as you're kind of pointing out. So maybe that does become his future. Maybe this is where he gets a taste of that, bumps up 2, 3, maybe 4 miles an hour on that fastball. He is 6'6", so that's going to be a very unique look. Jack, good question here. Yeah, I don't know the answer as far as what sort of facilities will other teams be allowed to use if they are on the Salt River Rafters. I imagine, everyone might go into the lab, at the start of spring training. There might be other times where everyone goes in just to get a little bit of data. Teams are going to probably want that. Keep in mind that there is StatCast data that's going to be available at Salt River Fields. So teams will still be getting a ton of that without, going specifically into the pitching lab. So I will have to ask around on that. Jump back in on another one of these streams, either Blake Street Banter or Rockies Insider, or more crossovers. So I appreciate that. You also got catcher Jose Cordova, Juan Guerrero, Skyler Messenger, Carlos Torres, right-handed pitcher, lefty reliever Evan Justice, all on that roster. Still a couple good names. Juan Guerrero is a guy that really came on my radar when he was with Lowe Fresno a couple years ago. A friend of the pod, Stephen Rice, sang his praises, and he's been fine over the last couple years, probably an organizational piece, but I still think there's some potential for him to make an impact. Maybe he becomes more of a valuable trade chip Skyler Messenger had a huge year last year at Fresno, playing a little over the diamond, mostly at third base, but he's a Colorado kid, so you like those kind of stories. So that's someone to keep an eye out on. And Evan Justice, still on the 40-man roster. Does he stick around? Don't know. Had some injuries this year, but was a lefty that advanced very quickly throughout the minor leagues to make his debut last year. Still don't really know what we've got in him, but the Rockies like him, and there's still tons of upside for that southpaw.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in those names you just said. I think Juan Guerrero's top 3 in the Rockies organization in hits hits this year. I think he had 119, 120 hits, right behind Sterling Thompson, something like that. So nice. Big bat to ball guy. Like what he does. Quiet, not going to really do anything crazy above average, but he's going to be a bat to ball guy, going back to what we were talking about at the earlier of the pod there. I like what he brings. He brought some fire to the Hartford Yard Ghosts at his call up. Jose Cordova, that's an interesting one. I wasn't quite expecting that name to be out there. You have your like Willie Mack, Braxton Fulford, Cole Messina. Cordova, he played a lot of first base and catcher for the Spokane Indians. A lot of clutch hits, though. A lot of go-ahead hits. He had a game-winning hit to, I think it was in the playoffs, in one of the 2 games where they were able to win the Northwest Championship League. I think Cordova was a big part of one of those wins there. So big clutch guy. I think he's almost like the calm veteran presence in the dugout. So I'm curious his name, what the Rockies see in him, see what they come up with that. Skyler Messenger is just a dude you root for. Unsigned free agent out of Texas, Colorado kid. His people listen to the pod, so shout out to you all. He's injury plagued, huge season, like you said, in 2023 with Fresno. Just couldn't find that timing, that groove this year. And I don't know if you noticed this, and we'll talk about Carlos Torres next, but on Evan Justice, when you look at the Arizona Fall League roster, he does not have a Colorado Rockies logo next to his name. He has a baseball next to his name. He's the only one on the roster. You're smarter than I am. I'll let you kind of predict what that might mean. There's 0% chance he's there without a club, but I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's because he has major league experience. I don't know. That was weird. And then Carlos Torres is another weird one that I was kind of surprised by. I think he's Rule 5 eligible in next year. So he still has another year of control. Kind of came out of nowhere, a 20th round pick out of Loyola, I believe. Lehigh, the other L school that I know all about. He was really clutch for the Spokane Indians when it was crunch time last year. He got some experience with the playoffs, shut down innings, big innings. Don't know much about him. Don't know much about his arsenal. Was not able to watch him, but he was a unique name along with Jose Cordova that I'm not quite sure. We didn't talk a lot about either one of those guys on the pod all year. So that was interesting seeing their names on there.
Relievers not getting love? What?
We give love to relievers all the time. Don't do that.
You guys do.
We do.
No, but in general, the proportion of love for relievers,
yes, nobody
always
likes
gets overlooked for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think the strikeout to walk ratio is a big one. You know, there's a lot of tools, I think, when players are in the majors to predict, hey, this guy is going to be good, and obviously we've got WAR to do those kind of things, and the expected stats, right, like FIP or XFIP. That in the minors for pitchers, you have to be striking out a lot and walking only a few. So for Carlos Torres, who only had 25 and 2/3 innings pitched, struck out 26, only walked 4, only gave up 2 homers. So he's filling up the strike zone. He's missing a lot of bats. That has a lot of value. Again, that's a guy that doesn't get a lot of publicity, a lot of press, a lot of love with the prospect rankings, but yet at the same time has value to a big league club. And you say, okay, maybe this is somebody that we can utilize going forward. Jose Cordova is listed as a catcher, so that's nice that some of the Rockies pitchers will have somebody that they are familiar with. He's a guy that has a good bat to ball ability. Batted .286 with high A Spokane. So does that put him on some kind of trajectory of being a guy that could impact the big league roster next year? Probably not, but he's important to the development of some of these other young pitchers. And as far as Evan Justice, having only a baseball beside his name and not the Rockies logo, Aaron, to me, you know what that means?
Somebody messed up.
Somebody messed up. Yeah, I don't know. Dude, that's amazing that you noticed that. I'm like, oh, because to be honest, if I would have seen that before you pointed that out, I would have gone crazy trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But now that like kind of getting it secondhand, I'm like, somebody just made a mistake. I don't know how, but
yeah, that's a weird one. Especially for that. And you also got to give love to Nick Wilson, the hitting coach. He's part of the Rockies farm hitting coach. I know he has a way cooler title than that, but he was with Fresno for a few years before he got the promotion, and he's doing a lot with batters. I know EJ Andrews, friend of the pod, and spoke very highly of his work with Nick there. And I'm excited to see that too. Like there might be a good connection with there. And Nick Wilson is a guy to keep a name on, to just an ear out, because he might be working his way up the system.
All right. Well, if it makes you feel any better, on Evan Justice's MLB page where it shows transactions, September 25th, Evan Justice assigned to the Salt River Rafters, and then even more recently, October 1st, recalled Evan Justice from the Ice Dope. So he's
still part of the system. Okay.
Okay.
Could you imagine? Big left talent there. That would be terrible, right?
The latest in the incorrect graphics news. Yeah. So, I mean, look, this is going to be interesting. The Salt River Rafters don't have a ton of top 100 prospects on their team in particular. Does that mean that much? Not necessarily. You're also going to have Diamondbacks, Nationals, Twins, Yankees guys there. The 2018 Rafters were the last team to be, really make an impact. They went to the AFL championship game, but lost. That crew included Sam Hilliard, Josh Fuentes, and Justin Lawrence. Jazz Chisholm also on that team. In 2014, the Rafters won it all with Trevor Story 2 years before he would debut, and Byron Buxton. 2012 Rafters were runners-up and included Corey Dickerson and Tyler Chatwood from the Rockies. And then 2011 had MVP Nolan Arenado there, and a young Dallas Keuchel who would debut the next year and win a Cy Young Award 3 years after that. So, besides just watching future Rockies play, you're going to see some future All-Stars as well. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of this league, is especially if you can get invested in a time in which, for some Rockies fans, you're not interested in what's going on in the postseason, especially if you don't like any of the teams in the National League. I don't think most Rockies fans are pulling for the Mets, Phillies, Dodgers, or Padres in any way. Maybe the Padres for a minute just so they can knock the Dodgers out. But for the most part, if there's nothing for you to root for,
Are you watching right now?
I'm not watching Dodgers.
You might want to turn it on. Our former friend, Jerks and Profar, is going at it with the Los Angeles Dodgers fans. I know there was something that happened in the 6th. He was jawing at Flaherty. He's still going. I saw a fan just threw a baseball on the field. I don't know if he was directing it towards Jerkson, but they got the umpires out here. They got the whole squad trying to calm Profar down. Darvish is even making his way out there. It's fiery right now in LA.
We got a brouhaha brewing, huh?
There's something.
For the Diamondbacks, they've got Tommy Troy, Yumin Lin, a left-handed pitcher that's number 7 in their top 10 rankings on MLB Pipeline, as well as Gino Groover, a third baseman, first base type. Nationals got their number 11th prospect, Caden Wallace, a third baseman, Robert Hassel, the third, who went one pick before Zach Veen in the 2020 draft. From the Padres, was dealt in the Juan Soto deal. Kalai Rosario, Twins number 20 prospect, and then the Yankees. No one too notable, although, again, if you ask a Yankee fan, these guys are going to be the next Aaron Judge. Carlos LaGrange, a right-handed pitcher. Rafael Flores, a catcher, first baseman. So, there's 73 prospects that took part in the spring breakout earlier this season in March. 10 of them ended up playing in the All-Star Futures game. And overall, we're talking 14 top 100 prospects that'll be featured in the Arizona Fall League. Jack Caglianone might be the best one. He's number 15 on the MLB Pipeline's rankings, first baseman for the Kansas City Royals, a team that I think a lot of Rockies fans are probably rooting for in the postseason, the Royals.
Yeah, they have that underdog, that Midwest feel to them. Like, you don't want the big dogs to win.
Yeah, Caglianone is one of the biggest guys that's playing in the Arizona Fall League, was just drafted. I don't think it's unprecedented, but it is very rare for a guy to immediately get drafted and then go to the Arizona Fall League. 6th overall pick by Kansas City in July. Got to talk to our guy, Kyle Kercheval, who called Jack Tani's 29 games with the Quad Cities River Bandits. Kyle's a Colorado guy. Only hit 2 home runs after hitting 35 with the University of Florida this year. He had 68 home runs in the past 2 seasons. He was a player that it seemed like maybe the Rockies did have some interest in before obviously selecting Charlie Condon with the 3rd overall pick. There's also an 18-year-old catcher, Ethan Salas, who managed to play a little AA baseball last year. He is a Padres catcher with Peoria, still a bit raw at the plate, but he probably has the highest floor out of anyone in this year's Arizona Fall League.
Yeah, a lot of talent. Like you said, like only you could come up with all those numbers and all that digging there. It's exciting. The talent's there.
Yeah. The 2 other guys I do want to mention, Leo Dallas DeVries, shortstop, 17-year-old with the Padres. Yeah, another teenage superstar phenom for San Diego. 17-year-old shortstop, as I mentioned, hit 11 homers in 75 games in Stephen Rice's Low A California League. That's what we should call it. You know, remember Stephen Rice's California League. We'll have to rebrand that. And then a Giants prospect. Again, you got to keep your eye on those NL West guys. Bryce Eldridge, who was the 16th overall pick out of high school in 2023, was a two-way guy out of high school, as I mentioned, before putting aside pitching and just hitting and focusing on that. It definitely showed this past year. 23 home runs as a 19-year-old, even spent 17 games at AA and AAA to get a little bit of a taste. He's 6'7". He absolutely could be a problem in the NL West. So ton of stories, ton of really good players in the Arizona Fall League. And it all gets started on Monday. Tuesday is the first Rafters game. And if you're not able to watch on TV, you can still follow the box score. You can still go and follow both of us over on social media. Aaron, go ahead and plug away and you can do what you need to do to filibuster and just go off if you need to.
Yeah,
I know
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blake Street Banter on Twitter, on Instagram, and the YouTube. We do a lot of covering the Colorado Rockies minor league baseball teams. That's our bread and butter. We have a lot of banter sessions, so to speak, just talking to the guys, talking to the minor league players, giving some love to some players that might not necessarily get some love. Dugan Darnell, for example, who should be on the major league squad next year, but that's a different conversation, different time. But we like to have fun. We like to do it our way, Blake Street Banter's way, and we covered the Rockies as well. We definitely took a step back in September. We are all doing this for fun. It is all our side gig, so to speak. We're all in school. We all have real person jobs. We all have families and lives and stuff. So you get what you get when you get it. So we like to have fun when we do it, though.
And you get more personalization, a little more one-on-one, right? If you're in the chat, boom, just like here over on the Rockies Insider, we want to hear your questions. We want to hear from you on the social medias. For me, at Patrick D. Lyons, at Patrick D. Lyons MLB, over on TikTok and Threads. Yes, I do hang out there. Man. Dude, Threads is heating up. I don't know if you've noticed, but Threads, it's been kind of popping off a little bit there. I don't know if the algorithm has found me. Don't know what it is. People have found my TikTok video of saying Shohei Ohtani is not him. I said it in August, people, okay? When I thought Ketel Marte was going to really make a push and maybe Francisco Lindor. Waited far too long. It's a no-brainer. It's going to be Ohtani. Is it unanimous, Ohtani MVP? I think so.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Ohtani, Judge, Scooble's the Scooble and Wheeler probably.
Maybe Sale. I think Sale might end up edging him out.
Sale might have it there. Yep.
We'll see. We'll talk about that too in November when the finalists come out and share. And in fact, when a certain vote, I'm not going to tell you what just yet, even though I did submit it. I did have an end of the year award of vote this year. Was it Rookie of the Year again? Was it Manager? Cy Young was an MVP. These are some of the things why you need to be watching on Rockies Insider, subscribing to the podcast, the YouTube channel at Rockies_Insider as well. Aaron, I think this was a success on the crossover side.
Yeah, let's run it back in a month or two for
Sure.
sure.
Let's
do
do
it
it.
again.
Appreciate you for giving me plenty of this momentum. But we all like to say in the podcast world that momentum is only as good as our next show. So we will talk to you then.